here, Mitchell's RCs. Coming back at you today with a little bit of an upgrade video for the Redcat Gen 7. As you all know, I got a Gen 8 to the channel, and I'm going to have a little pull-off between the Gen 7 and the Gen 8. And before I do that, I want to put a 550 can engine back in the motor, back in the Gen 7. Right now, I blew the 550 up a while back, so I had a 540 I just threw in there. So to get it comparable back to what it should be, I'm going to throw this TLTAN, I believe it is, 540 can, 35 turn, brushed motor in the Gen 7. And after I do that, we're going to switch and put the stock tires back on the Gen 7. That way the Gen 7 is back in stock form. That way it's even. Because right now I have done no upgrades on the Gen 8 yet, so I want to get the Gen 7 back to stock platform, so it has an even, so everything's even and fair. And then we're going to see who the king of the crawlers really are. So guys, let's get ready here and we'll solder this. I want to make these wires just a little bit longer. Just a little bit, and I'll show you why. Cutter's not working here. Oh, I have to tighten the brake up. Sorry about that. There we go. I don't know if I want that much. Let me see. What I want to do, guys, is if we hear the camera. Where's the camera? What I want it to do is, this is the hot for your red dot. I want to be able to stick it in through. Solder part of the lead on one side, and then solder the other part on the other side. That way it won't pull out, see, no matter what. So that's kind of how I want to do it. So what I got to do first is tin these wires. But, like I said, I don't know if I quite need that much. No, I can cut just a little bit of that off. Kind of what I want right there, guys. You can see that. So I'm just going to do the same to this other wire. Now what we're going to do is tin them. Tinning is just adding a little solder to the ends of the wires. Makes it easier when you're doing your connections to have your wires already pre-tinned. Heats up quicker that way, everything. It's way better. So I'll turn on my gun. They're around about 700 degrees. Now when you're doing this, guys, you want to make sure you pick the right tip for what you're doing. I'm going to use a spade tip, or a wedge tip, some people might call them. It's a little bit bigger, but I'm working with a little bit bigger wire and a bigger connection, so I want to use a tiny bit bigger tip. I'll use a smaller fine tip for when you're working on smaller wires, with like lighting and stuff like that. Add a little flux to these connectors. You always want to put a little bit of solder on your tip first. It helps your tip conduct heat. Okay. To the bottom side of the wire. Wait till you see the bubbling. Once you see a little bit of bubbling, you should be able to start to force solder into the wire. Smooth it off just a little bit because I still want to make it so it fits through that hole. Always keep a damp sponge so you can clean your tip. Clean soldering gun, dude, guys, is very, very important when you're doing this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to add some solder to this side here. Okay. Roll it over. Yep, we got good penetration through the other side. I don't know if you guys can see that. See where the bubble went through. I'm going to roll it over and do the other side. Now is going to come the tricky part of trying to get that through. So we're going to heat the back side. Set the wire there, let it pop down there. Give it a little press. You guys can see that. Melted right in perfect. Both sides. So now we'll do that to the other side. Oh no. Forgot to put the heat shrink on, guys. I might have to take that back off. I don't know if I can fit that in over that end. So, I'm going to have to heat that up, pull it out, put the heat shrink back on. Don't forget your heat shrink, guys. It's very important. Biggie. There we go. We got her out. Always remember, heat shrink. Make sure you always put your heat shrink down far enough so it doesn't get affected by the heat of your soldering. Okay, let's do this again. So, I'm going to give that drop more solder where I took that off. Okay, I just want to see, make sure you guys can see where I am. Alright, do that again. Heat the back side. Get the wire to go down into the hole. It's hitting that gun. Right. I want the wire to lay flat, so I'm going to heat it on this side and give it a shove down. There we go. Perfect. Loosen my tip up a little bit. Okay. Nice. So that one's done. Perfect. Now we're going to do the same to the other side. Now that we got the heat shrink on there, this should be just a one-shot deal. I'm going to give that a tap, a flux, just to clean it for a second. Heat that up. See the flash, you know you can slide that through. Just bend it up. Clean the tip. Always want to clean your tip, guys. Clean tip is very important. Perfect solder on both of them all the way through. Now that I got them stuck through the holes, guys, even if something gets pulled, the way it's stuck through the hole, the wire is going to grab by itself. So it's going to pull on the whole pin versus just the wire. Alright, so let's pull these heat shrinks down. Over that. Keep working it, you'll get it. A little twist and a push. So you know what? They slide right up on there. See? Do the same with the other side. Might have to take the pliers for a second here. Give this a little squeeze to get it flatter. There we go. Pull that one cover over that. on the air. There we go, guys. That's how you solder wires on. That's simple. That's simple. Just make sure everything's clean. Make sure your equipment's nice and clean. You'll have no problem. And don't forget your heat shrink. So what we're going to do is switch over to the other bench now, guys, and we'll start tearing down the Gen 7. That sleeve comes right off, so if you want to put a fan or something on it, this makes it wider. You can slide that off. It's kind of like a heat sink, guys. And it's just another little silver can painted black, all it is. But it's supposed to be, like I said, it's supposedly a 35 turn, 550 brush. But you can take that off and put a heat sink on that. So we'll move to the other table and we'll start on that. So here we go, this is Gen 7. We'll pull this other camera back over here real quick, just in case we want to use it on this side. Sorry I ain't made any running videos lately, guys. It's just the weather up here where I live hasn't been the best. Hasn't been the best at all. Alright, let me get to this other camera for a second. We'll get it set up. Okay. There we go. Good enough. Alright guys, so this is the Gen 7. Different body. I destroyed the original body that came with it. The original body that came with it didn't have a cage on the inside, and I put a basket on the top to carry stuff. And every time you flip over without a cage holding that basket would push down into the top, and it ended up cracking the top is what it did. So I like Fords, and I went out and got a Ford body, painted it up, and just threw it on. I think it looks pretty good. So what we're going to do, guys, is pull this 540 can out of here and install this 550. Now this has an aftermarket transmission in it, right from it's a SEX10 transmission, all metal geared. When I bought it, I messed up, guys, and I bought a reverser transmission. So I ended up having to modify that transmission to make it work right. But it's a loud transmission, but it is a very, very good transmission. I like it. It works really well. Alright, so I need an extension bit here. 2.0. Right there. And a screwdriver. That's long, because it takes a bit to get in there. Come in here and take these little screws out if I can get on them right. Might have to run one more extension, I don't know. Now, the only difference is if you want to run an axial transmission on a Redcat is the footprint where it bolts down. The axial is even front and back. The Redcat, oh wait, no, excuse me. The axle is wide in the back, narrow in the front. The Redcat is the same footprint front to back, so you have to widen the two front holes on your mount to make the transmission fit, and then it will fit. It's no big deal. You just drill 2 new holes. Alright, now there should be one way down here. Oh, and to get the transmission to fit properly, you have to modify the side of the side cover for the transmission, which is no big deal, where the gear goes in. Alright, there we go, come on, you can make it. What you end up doing is you have to cut a notch out of the cover right here, this red cover. You have to cut a little notch out. I'll show you in a second. when I get the cover off here, you'll see what I had to do. And if you wanted to make it back into making it watertight, you could. I don't really mind a little water getting in here. Everything on here is metal gears, guys. So you hear how loud that is. You can hear that ticking between my gears. It's kind of what you want to hear, guys, when you put a gear together. You want that little clicking right there to tell you that it's not too tight. What I ended up doing, see, guys, I had to cut a notch in the side of the cover. Now, if you wanted to, what you could do is you could take a piece of rubber and glue it on the inside around that hole and block that back off like that on the inside. But it doesn't bother. It doesn't bother. It doesn't bother the gear. I've never got nothing in there that bothers it. For the most part, it fits right in around that arm. Right there. You can see that arm down there, the way it fits. So that keeps all the big stuff out, and any big sticks that come up and hit, it's still blocked by the cover, so it doesn't hurt it a bit, guys. And I only gave like $20-something for this transmission on Amazon, so I mean it's a pretty good deal. Right, turn this over. That motor spins easy. Getting old. I've worked this motor hard. I've worked this machine hard, guys. I really like the Gen 7. And for the $200 I paid for it, which isn't nothing, but for the $200 I paid for it, it's paid for itself a million times over. I mean, it's just it's a fun rig. It really is. And to know it's just as capable as your high dollar rigs is the best part, guys. To know that, for $300 I can run with guys that have $600-700 machines and still have a good time. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to get the hammer out for a sec. That gear is stuck. Which I don't doubt it. Like I said, I play in the water a lot. She'll free up in a minute. Keep tapping her around. Yeah, she's moving. Slowly. Still can't quite get behind it. There we go. Now we're behind it. Whew. Rusted on a little bit there. I did have it Loctited too, and by looks of it, a little bit of that Loctite got down inside there on the pin. I can see it on the motor shaft there. Okay, let's go back in this way and we'll take these out. Maybe not. That one feels stripped. That ain't feeling too good. See if I can get in there with a different screwdriver. I think I got that one started. Yep, I did. There we go. Yep, I got it. That's one thing about having good drivers, guys. It's a must-have. At least one set of good drivers. That way, when you do come up to messed up screws, you have a chance of getting them out. The mud just falling out of this thing, guys, everywhere. All right, let's pull this battery out. Looks like that. Oh, there we go. She's stuck back down. Kind of weird. A lot of wires here, guys. I've got a lot of lights hooked up on this, and I have winches. I have underneath. I put underneath rock lights, red ones in the front, white in the center, blue in the back fender wells. Drive shafts are getting worn. The pins are getting worn. Won't be long. I'm going to need a set of drive shafts for this bad boy too. Oh, those pins are getting real worn. Like I say, I'm not easy on it, guys. I put her through her paces, but that's what was in it, a 540 can. This is the motor that came in the Everest 10 that I took out, put in that crazy pony, and then a short while after that I blew the motor in the Gen 7. So I didn't have anything else besides this 540 to throw in at the time. But what happens to these guys is, see if you can see, they're bushings. That's not a bearing, that's a bushing, and that'll wear. Right now this isn't too bad. It's got a little in and out play, but she's spinning really easy now. Not much restriction. So the bushings are getting worn. Yeah, the bottom one especially right here. Well, this motor I've got here has a bearing on this side, but it's hard to tell. It looks like a bushing on that side. So that's kind of weird. They put a bearing in one end and a bushing in the other end, but at least it's got at least one bearing, and it does feel a lot smoother. So we're going to throw this bad boy right in there. And this did come with a 540, guys, so there should be no problem with this motor going back in there. Okay, now over here I had, and I moved them yesterday. Just gonna grab 2 new screws, guys. I'm not gonna mess around with that. Oops, sorry if I'm in the way, guys. Just looking for a screw in this bucket the right length. Okay, so we'll get some thread tight here, Loctite. Okay, now the fun part, finding the holes, guys. Oh no, I dropped it. Oh, I did on there. Here we go. Good save. That shaft is shorter. It has to go that way. That doesn't go back far enough to go that way. It's not going to hit the shaft. It's going to be right on the tip of that shaft. That's got a short shaft on this motor. I don't know why it's so short, but it is short. Something's right. Wow, trying to get in here is such a pain in the butt. definitely gotta get some longer drivers. Well, Forster over there. Seems to be alright, guys. It seems to be working. I mean, if I can hold it right there in place, make the tire spin, not make the gear strip. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. I have to these guys. That motor is way quieter than the one I had in it. Oh yeah, look at that slow control. Oh yeah, going up over my hand like nothing. Right up over my fist. Got nice slow control, as long as I can be easy with it. That's not bad. Now, the next thing will be swap out the tires. And then, once the tires are swapped out, she's going to be ready to go up against the Gen 8. Now, like I said, these will be going on. Going to turn it back to stock just for a little while. Just long enough to play with the Gen 7, the Gen 8 do a little tug of war. Then the Gen 8's going to get a new pair of, then the Gen 8's going to get some new tires, and I have 2 sets of these. So one set's going to go on the Gen 8, and the other set of them, I got 8 of them. The other set's going to go on the Gen 7. After we do a stock tire tug of war, we're going to do a modified tire tug of war and see if that makes any difference. And the Gen 8 will be on steel wheels. That way it matches these, where these are on heavier, these are aluminum, heavy aluminum wheels, these are steel, but they should weigh pretty close. If not, I'll weigh up another pair of my wheels and get them closer to what them weigh. I got a ton of aftermarket metal aluminum wheels for these crawlers, guys. I just love them. And these were the tires I was talking about the other day that I put on the Everest 10. That tread pattern right there, guys, is killer. These things on the Everest 10 will climb anything. They're non-vented right now, and they seem to work pretty good being non-vented, actually. I like having that little bit of air in them. But if it comes to a time that I notice it's having a hard time climbing, and it doesn't do well, I'll vent them. But I haven't seen a problem with them yet, and it climbs pretty much everywhere my Gen 7 goes. The only difference between the Everest 10 is a little bit taller center of gravity, so it does flip a little bit more than the Gen 7. But you see the tire pattern, guys. This is a really good tire pattern. I don't even remember who made these wheels or tires. I bought the rims and then I went and ordered the tires for them. So that's what's going to be going on the Gen. That's what's going to be going on the Everest 10. Those tires. So once I put the tires on this, then what do I get left? Oh, nothing, I think. Once I put the tires on this, I'll be ready to do a tug of war against the Gen 8, and we'll be able to throw the Everest 10 in the mix. And I got the Crawler King fixed a while back and put a new rear end in that, so we'll be putting that. So we'll have 4 crawlers here. We'll have 4 crawlers for the crawl off, guys. We'll see who makes the best crawler and which one it is. Well, not best crawler, but who makes the best tug of war crawler, put it that way. Alright guys, this is Larry over to Mitchell's RC saying thanks for stopping by, and hope to see you again. Later.